If he birthed them, if they were his creation, then
Do you genuinely believe that?
maybe a little bit.
Maybe a little bit. Would you say that you are an animal lover yourself?
Well, yeah, I've had a cat since he was a kitten, so
Is it just specifically cat animals like dogs or cats, or do you love animals generally?
generally,
Generally.
yeah.
So what would you say is a loving thing to do to an animal?
Well, basically, if they need anything, then if they want it, then you go and get it.
Yeah, like serve them,
Yeah.
basically. What would you say is an unloving thing to do to an animal?
Put it outside.
Put them outside, yeah, like out in the cold,
Yeah.
or so like abuse them or something
Yeah.
like that. Can you think of anything that we do societally that would be unloving to a given animal?
Yeah, there's loads of things.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but I won't say them on a microphone, no.
You won't say them on the microphone?
No.
Do you think, what do you think about practices like the dairy, the meat, the egg industry, for example?
Where's this leading?
To here exactly, to the meat, dairy, egg industries, or animal testing, things like that?
Animal testing, I don't agree with it,
Mhm.
right? But but we have to get our food from somewhere.
So obviously, with the animals, what do they eat? The farmed animals, what are they fed?
Well, it's generally what farmer gives them.
Yeah, like crops that we could technically eat, right?
Yeah, but an animal's got to eat to sustain us.
Yeah. So
So-
do you think that we have to eat them?
Well, if you want to have a good, healthy life, then yeah, you do need some meat in you, yeah.
Well, luckily, we have data like from the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics that states that plant-based diets are suitable for all
Right.
stages of life.
Right, so if this is going to go down a plant-based route, that's where you lose me.
So we're talking to animal lovers today, trying to get their opinion on things, and you would consider yourself an animal lover?
Most definitely.
Yeah, why would you consider yourself an animal lover?
Because nature is an amazing thing and we need to protect it more than anything else. That, and I just think that they have such undying love to us, especially pets, that kind of thing. And even more than pets.
Yeah.
I mean, things that we consider being farm animals, I think have such a range of emotion.
Yeah.
And it's incredible to see. So I think because of they have such a high capacity for love for us, I think that's why I love them.
Return it. What would you say is a loving thing to do to an animal?
I think caring for it. I think making sure that it has the best conditions that it needs, making sure that you give it, little treats, little snacks every now and then. All the things just the things you do for a person. Treat them to nice things.
Because we are animals as well.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly, yeah.
What would you say comes to mind as an unloving thing to do to an animal?
I think negligence.
Negligence.
I think just not. If it's an animal under your care, obviously there are animals that live without our interaction at all.
Yes.
But I think, like zoos, if you bring an animal out of its natural habitat and put it in like a concrete box, I think that's horrendous. It needs to have its, all of the things it needs out in nature. So I think just, negligence.
So I'm seeing like negligence, like abuse, things like that. Like, would you consider that abuse, like to put them in a concrete?
Yeah. Not giving them the things the necessities that they need. That is most definitely abuse. 100%.
And here's the big question that's quite thought-provoking. What do you think about industries that exist, like the meat, the dairy, the egg industry, or animal testing, things like that? What's your opinion on them? Do you think they're loving to do to animals?
So just animal produce in general, that kind of the industry as a whole.
Yeah, so like meat, dairy, eggs, or other purposes like animal testing, vivisection, these things where we use animals.
Yeah, I think much like people, I think there are both good things and bad things. I disagree massively with battery farming of like chickens, that kind of thing. I know that it is a process, and eventually, at some point, cows, chickens, things like that become meat. And I do think that on the industrial scale, it's destroying the planet, especially not only just harvesting or getting what the product out of it, if we will. I think it's taking care of them on a mass scale, and doing it wrong is awful. There are so many laws and regulations, but unfortunately they just can't get around to all of them.
Mhm.
There will always be people who think they can get around it,
Yeah.
which I think is the worst thing. I think the farming of it, not too bad. The way they go about it, awful.
Yeah, do you think it would be loving to bring someone into existence, even on a smaller scale, use them, know their day of death,
Yeah.
because you're going to do it,
Yeah.
and then kill them? Would you say that's a thing an animal lover would do?
I think so. I think, to be honest, if it is brought in for a purpose, I understand it's very macabre when you think about it. But life is pretty macabre. There's a lot of dark things, and I think as long as it's given the best life that it can while it's alive, it may have the intended purpose of being killed at the end of it. But I think that's the natural process of life anyway. Everyone dies at some point. It's what you make with the time while you're alive.
Let me bring that back to you. Like, say, for example, I gave birth to a human and I've brought them into the world and I know that at some point they're going to die. So I just farm them and kill them. Would you say that that's just part of life, or would you want me sentenced for my crime?
Depends if you're going to eat them or not.
So if I eat them like a Jeffrey Dahmer style thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's about the usage of the dead babies.
Okay.
If you're just killing babies for the sake of killing babies, then no.
But if I'm eating them, so
Yeah.
so you believe that Jeffrey Dahmer did nothing wrong?
No, because those people were born. They would have their own life. That was
If he
fine.
gave birth to them,
If he birthed them, if they were his creation, then
do you genuinely believe that?
maybe a little bit.
Maybe a little bit. Okay,
Yeah.
that's very
Won't
interesting.
put my full name on here.
No, I won't put my full name. Well, I'm of the view that you can't just bring someone into existence and then take them out of it because you had a purpose for them. You can't just assign a life, an individual, a purpose, just say, I want you for food, and then use them as such.
That's fair. No, I can
Yeah.
understand that. I completely understand that. Not wanting to give someone's life just for one thing is creationist, deciding if we can or can't decide what lives and what dies.
Yeah. So
Nature's way. If if it dies naturally, that's okay. But purposefully
or
ending
if I
it-
breed them into
if you
existence,
yeah. But then that's
you can
bit
you can
strange.
walk that back at any point
Well,
if you want to.
I think that. Oh no, I stand by it.
Okay.
I think the whole industry as a whole is, if you look at it, it's real weird. Birthing things to be born and just to eat them. But
Have you seen a free-range farm, for example, around this area? Like, do you know what they look like and what happens to the animals?
yeah, I've grown up around farming.
Yeah.
In general.
So I've been in quite a few farms, and I've been to one around here, or a couple around here, and one that's really interesting is pig farming, because you drive around Norfolk and you see all these free-range farms, and you see these pigs, and they look so happy from a distance, but you realise they're all sick. There are dead ones they are
amongst.
covered in their own feces, which they're actually really clean, intelligent animals.
Yeah,
People don't
pigs
know
are-
that.
they're great.
Yeah. And you find them dead in bins. They've got trauma, like head trauma. They've obviously been killed and then put in a bin. And there's all this abuse that happens alongside their killing, which I'd say killing them in the first place is a bad thing, commodifying them. And that's just one aspect. But do you know, interestingly, what happens and how they're stunned before they're killed?
Pigs
Yes.
specifically. No, not pigs.
So they're actually put in gas chambers.
Are they?
Yeah, they are burnt from the inside out for 30 seconds to 2 minutes. They are gasping for breath, and obviously they are in a gas chamber. They get sent down. It's called Cranswick. It's not far from here. It's in Watton, and you can see them being sent in their final moments, and then they are actually gassed. And that's just one industry.
That's
And
just one way that they do it. Okay.
and have you seen farrowing crates? Do you know what that is?
Farrow?
Farrowing crates, yeah.
Not particularly. I know farrow is horses, aren't they?
So these crates are for pigs. So these sows, the mother pigs, they will be in a crate that is actually their size for 2 months. So they're unable to move. They have these babies. They're artificially inseminated. And they have all these babies that they can't even tend to properly. Sometimes they crush them.
Yes.
And, I've been inside them and seen these babies, and I've seen the dead babies in bins. And there's all this stuff that's happening to them that we don't see. and there might be a reason why it's hidden, because I don't think any of us are comfortable. Like if you saw a piglet just suffering in front of you, you'd probably want to help them. You wouldn't want to eat them, right?
I think to a certain extent, there are. I mean, obviously there are things that does happen, like pig being squashed, that kind of thing. That happens naturally. The gassing, no, that's not a natural thing, of course. There are things that happen naturally, but it is the negligence and the not taking care of that I think is atrocious. Like keeping them in just enough room for them to just stand there and then sit down, I think is horrific.
For 2 months.
Yeah.
At a time, and then they carry on the process, and then they're killed when they're no longer able to. And that's the same with dairy. I don't know if you know much about dairy.
I know a little bit more about dairy, but I mean, just imagine if it was a person.
Yeah, exactly.
If you put a person in that situation, who's gonna be okay with it? No one.
Exactly. And do you think there's a morally significant difference between them and us that would justify that?
I don't think there actually is. I think there's a perceived difference in the morality between animals and people. But I do think that people forget we're just animals at the end of the day. We're the same as them.
Yeah, and we are able to do certain things animals cannot, but that gives us a level of responsibility that they don't
absolutely.
have. Yeah,
100%. It's our job to take care of the world, and we're seemingly destroying it.
Have you ever considered veganism?
No, I have not.
No? Would you have a consideration for it after this conversation when we're talking about animals being commodified and our responsibility towards them?
I enjoy meat too much, eating it, but if I were to, I think the closest form that I would go would be maybe if I was living out somewhere, only killing and harvesting things that I am going to use personally. I feel is a much different thing than things being killed on mass scale, just because of wastage. The amount of something giving its entire being and its life just to be thrown in the bin, I think is horrific.
I mean, obviously we have different views on like killing someone and then using their bodies, but you say you enjoy the taste of meat too much. Have you actually tried vegan products?
I have.
Which ones?
I've tried a lot of, I think it's corn.
Vegetarian,
That's
but some
vegetarian.
of it's vegan.
My sister has been vegetarian vegan, flip-flopping a little bit, and then my parents have been vegetarian for a good while, which is why I kind of have the opinion of course it doesn't matter if you want to take care of animals and not eat meat or animal products. It's great. That's wonderful. You're saving the environment.
And the individuals.
Yeah, well, of course, yeah.
And well, I go to the gym right now. I'm like a vegan, a vegan meat eater. I eat vegan chicken, vegan beef, vegan, and I must say I've been vegan for 10 years, and the taste profile, I'm not missing out.
No.
And the thing is, we got to think as well. Say if a vegan thing was 5 times pleasure, and then the animal flesh was 10 times pleasure. But someone said to you, you can have the 5 times pleasure, and that's fine, or you can have the 10 times pleasure, and you have to shoot an animal in the head. Which one would you pick?
The second one.
Shoot them in the head. You would.
Well, no, it depends. If I'm going to use the animal in it as its entirety, so, hide or skin, again, it's more about what you do with it afterwards.
Okay, so let's say, for example, I had a sensory pleasure of hearing dogs scream. So I got 5 times pleasure from the meat that's vegan, or I get 10 times pleasure from kicking a dog, hearing them scream, killing them, then using their body. You'd say I'd be justified in using the second option because I'm getting a sensory pleasure out of it and because I'm using the whole animal.
Getting the pleasure out of it and using the animal, I feel, are 2 different things for me.
Obviously, they're you talked about enjoying the taste, so that's a sensory pleasure.
Yes, okay.
And that's why I'm using that as an example. And you said about using the whole body. That's why I'm adding them.
I think it's strange because if you picture it being a dog, then it's like no, because it's a pet.
Exactly.
And where's the line?
Yeah.
Where do you draw the line?
Well, the line.
When do we get into that? Where do we fit into that?
I'd say the line's at sentience. That makes most logical sense. So if an individual has the capacity to suffer, feel pain like humans, dogs, chickens, pigs, then that's the most logical line.
I feel a plant can also suffer. A plant can die and wilt, and because I'm a gardener by occupation, so I work with plants. And it's strange. You do have to take care of it like it is a life form. It's its own little thing.
Yeah,
And
so
I think you can do the same thing.
so is bacteria though, but bacteria is not sentient. Like, do you know what I mean? But like a plant is not. The scientific consensus at the moment is that plants aren't sentient.
Plants, no sentience.
But interestingly, if they were, being plant-based would be better because obviously we grow all these crops to feed to animals,
Yeah.
we deforest all the land
Yeah.
to graze for the animals. So even if it were, it wouldn't be the silver bullet for plant-based
more plants,
diets.
oh no.
More plants, yeah. Obviously we'd have to think of a different diet then, but at the moment, you know, that line makes most sense, sentience, yeah.
I think there's so many differing views and opinions in the world, and it's just trying to get people to look at all of the options. I think people are too stuck in their ways, and they'll go, okay, I enjoy doing this, and I'm not going to look at anything else.
Yeah, and
Sorry.
sorry, you
I
carry on.
enjoy eating meat, and I know that obviously the way they go about it is wrong, but that's my personal choice, and I can respect other people that.
You mentioned just before that people are stuck in their ways. Would you say that you're stuck in your ways when it comes to that?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
And I think it's important as well that you said it's a choice. Now, obviously, everything's a choice. And I think in life there are neutral, good or bad choices. And I made the change because I thought that was inherently a bad choice. And, you know, we were talking about, you know, killing individuals and using them. I would say ultimately that is a bad choice. And, you know, when we put it in the dog context or the human context, we see how bad it is. But, as you said before, there's no morally significant difference. So it's challenging that, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's trying to think outside the box. And
Yeah.
Not enough people do it.
No. And I'd say that I can see that you are actually one of them. And it might be interesting to see how this conversation pans out in future.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you for talking.
Yeah.